Alright players, before we press start on today's episode, it's time to give a big retro shout out to our top tier supporters, keeping the pixels glowing and the cartridges clean. At the 64-bit Legend tier, these are the final bosses of support. Much love to Oriok, Zero, and Mr. Arkansas. Over in the 16-bit Adventurer tier, our heroic party includes Tetrafali, Gage P, and Marcus Q. You're powering us up big time. And at the 8-bit Explorer tier, give it up for the classic crew. Wabi Yerd, Werkun Warden, Gaming Quarterly, and Big Nick Dika. Keeping it old school and awesome. You legends are the cheat code to keeping this show running. Thank you all for your incredible support. I'll keep grinding to bring you content worthy of your high scores. Now grab your controller, hit that start button, and let's jump into the episode.
Hey there! Welcome to Retro Reloaded. I'm your host Lance, and each week I tackle a retro game shaped by your picks. If you want a chance to choose next week's game or unlock exclusive bonus episodes and polls, join me on Patreon at patreon.com/retroreloaded. There's even a free tier to dip your toes in. Big thanks for all of your love and support. It means the world to me. Now let's hit the start button and reload those retro vibes. All right, guys, with all of that stuff out of the way, we have a brand new guest. He has a name that's foreign, so it's a little hard for me to pronounce. He was actually kind of explaining it to me before the podcast started. In English, we would pronounce it Rino Dino, but it is pretty far off. It's. Do you want to pronounce that for us real quick?
Yeah, sure. Rino Dino. But I'm so used to people calling me Rino Dino that you could call me Rhino for short. No problem.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to try to do that. I actually tried a little bit before the podcast, but it's hard to do when you're not thinking about it. But yeah, excuse my mispronunciation of your name or butchering, but thank you for coming on to the show. We're going to be talking about Comix Zone today, which is an older Sega Genesis game. And but before we kind of do that, I kind of want to go into our guests' backgrounds with this game. Like what got you into Comix Zone?
So when I was young, I grew up with a PlayStation 3 since I got in late 2009. And one of the games I would eventually get for it would be the Sega Mega Drive Ultimate Collection, or as you guys in North America know it, the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection. Because, we're not stinky. We say Mega Drive instead. And there were a bunch of games on it because my mentality was like, I want a game with a bunch of games instead of going for Sonic Generations, which I wouldn't regret, but, it would take me a while to get that game. But through that list, I got to experience a lot of stuff like the classic Sonic games, a little bit of Streets of Rage. And and this was during the time where I wanted to get all the trophies for a game, all the achievements. And it required you to play at least a little bit of every game. And Comix Zone was one of the games included. When I was young, I didn't know exactly how to process the game because I didn't know much what was going on. But I remember being like mesmerized by its art style and how just good it looked for a Mega Drive game. And even though I grew up with a PlayStation 3, I was already like very focused and on like retro styles. I still remember being enthralled by like the Crash Bandicoot 1 and seeing like the sunset, the levels and stuff like that. I think that was beautiful. So while we were going even further back, this looked gorgeous to me. And I was like, I gotta play this someday. And eventually I would play it more than just getting the achievement. And I got my ass kicked a lot. So eventually I learned that there was a cheat code that allowed me to get infinite health. And some people may not call me an epic gamer by using that cheat code, but that's the way I have fun with the game. So yeah, okay. That's how I normally play the game.
What did you say the cheat code did?
Give you infinite health.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I kind of don't blame you for this game. There might be some games that I would be like, come on, dude. But this one, I'm not gonna, it's a hard game. Let's just get it out there. For I don't think there's anyone who really disagrees with this, and if they do, I think they're just being contrarian. This game is pretty difficult. People put it on the same playing field as things like Battletoads, from what I've heard. I don't know which one's harder, but this game is kind of interesting because it's hard in a way that's not like, I wouldn't say it's like mechanically difficult. It's more of like, let me kind of set up the scene so basically in this game, your character is thrown into a comic book, hence the reason it's called Comix Zone. And your character's thrown into this comic book and he jumps through panels. So each panel has its own setting. Each panel also is like its own puzzle. It's basically a puzzle through each panel. So you have to kind of figure out how to navigate the panel. There's like the good way to navigate through the panel, and then there's like the bad way to navigate through the panels. And what I mean by that is that you'll either come out of that panel with like full health or in items, or you're going to come out of it with like low health and no items, basically.
Yep.
And so it's one of those games that it's you have to learn as you go. Like, so you're like, okay, I messed up this panel. How can I like do it better next time? Or like, oh, I messed up the one before it, and now this one's messed up. So how can I like, it's kind of, you learn through your mistakes in this game. And it's not like a mechanical challenge. Like I would say, like, I don't know. What would be like a mechanically challenging game? Like Elden Ring, maybe, kind of. But
yeah, possibly that. Dark Souls in general, yes.
Yeah, Dark Souls. But it's more of like you're learning. It's hard because you don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know what's coming at you. You don't know what's in the next panel. You don't know, like, that's what's hard about it, is that it makes you replay it over and over and over and over. It's not really like one of those things you can just go in and be like a good gamer and just like beat the game. It's like something that it's going to make you learn the panel. So that's kind of why it's different. So I don't really blame you. I don't blame you on using the cheat code, because you wanted to experience the game, right? You wanted to like actually get through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my mentality on a lot of games, to be honest. Sometimes I will challenge myself on games, yes. But when it comes to older stuff, I'm one of those people that's like, yep, I'll use rewinds, I'll use save states, because generally I like to experience the game. And I like to be like, okay, I got to experience this, I got to experience that, Because after a while, I understand the feeling of wanting to be challenged. But I don't like those curmudgeons that are like, oh, you didn't actually beat the game because you do this and this and this. And I'm like, screw you, I had fun. and really at the end of the day, that's what matters, right?
Yes. Especially in a single player game. I would say the only...
I never cheated with multiplayer once. Never.
Yeah, that's the only time it really matters, I think, is like in a multiplayer game. If you're cheating in a single player, like, if you're having fun, dude, like, that's fine. I used to do in Grand Theft Auto, I used to do like the gun cheats and like the tank cheats and all that stuff. Like, I used to, it was like a lot of fun to just like get all these massive weapons and just run around like Vice City and just blow up everything. I used to enjoy that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in single player games, do what you want. I don't really care. You could make the argument like you didn't, really, I'm putting up quotation marks here. You didn't really beat the game, but who cares? Like, if you enjoyed it, you enjoyed it. That doesn't matter. So yeah, it can, and I'm kind of curious, like, are there any other games that you would, like, this game's pretty unique, so are there any other games that you would relate to this game that you feel like are similar?
As in, they both have like this vibe of comic book and stuff like that?
Yeah, either that, or you can talk about the difficulty, like anything that kind of just reminds you of Comix Zone for maybe people who haven't played it.
Okay, so I haven't played this game yet, but I think the closest thing, and I mean this, like, and I know this is a bit of a reach, but the closest thing that got to a sort of comic book art style or a sort of comic book aesthetic, or like the panels and the little speech bubbles and stuff like that, would actually be the Deadpool game that was released in 2014. I haven't played it myself, but I've seen plenty of it, and it does try to hit that similar comic book, not so much art style, but like aesthetic with speech bubbles. And there's even an announcer over it. Um, what the heck isn't a kilometer? I know what a kilometer is. It's better than a mile, that's for sure. But in terms of difficulty, I think there were a lot of games back in the 80s and 90s that were difficult, but I've never seen a game as brutal as Comix Zone, because even some of the more challenging games, like Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, or Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, and 3, with the exception of 3, internationally, those offered you infinite continues and extra lives. You could get extra lives by reaching a certain points threshold, or just by finding some hidden one-ups. But Comix Zone is so punishing that there are no extra lives. You just get one, and if you die, no continues. You go all the way back to the beginning. Now, to be frank, this game is short, but it's so hard that it's like, you ain't beating this. Unless you are super dedicated, like to the level design, to memorizing everything, to prepare against the enemies, which those will block a lot. So it's best to do different attacks, either an upcut or a small or sweep kick or stuff like that, or use your items effectively, like the roadkill, the sketches, pet rat, or explosives, which maybe it's best to save those for doors because you get hit by punching for doors. So I've never seen a game this brutal. So I think maybe the closest thing would be like Ninja Gaiden 3 from the ones I've played, but it's only because the international version of that has finite continues, and that wouldn't be the only game with finite continues. I could mention Battletoads, but I haven't played that one yet, so I haven't completely suffered yet. Even Ghosts and Goblins on the NES had infinite continues. So, yeah, you heard it here, folks. Ghosts and Goblins is easier than Comix Zone. Allegedly.
Oh, you're gonna ruffle some feathers there. I mean, I don't know. I never played Ghosts and Goblins. I know it's a very popular game, though.
Don't.
It's not worth it. Oh man.
Just at least the original NES version. If we're talking about the sequels, Ghouls and Ghosts on Mega Drive and Super Ghouls and Ghosts on Super Nintendo, those I'd say are worth it. But having to beat the game twice to truly beat it's like,
yeah. If games make me do that, and I don't really, so if I enjoy a game, I'll do it like a lot. If I really like it, but if a game makes me like play it twice to truly beat it, a lot of the time I just look up like the alternate ending or whatever. I just look up the extra ending. I'm like, okay, like what's the real ending?
Yeah.
Some people are like, they don't like that. But if you really like a game, you'll replay it, I don't know, 5-10 times or whatever. But I don't typically, especially with this show, like I'm getting a new game every week. It's going to be very rare that I do New Game Plus on any of these, these games. It's like, it's pretty rare if I even beat the game in a week, first of all. And if I do, then, like it's even more rare that I'm going to beat it twice. So, the Battletoads, just because you mentioned you were talking about like you never played it, it doesn't give you one life from what I remember. I think it gives you like a few, maybe like 2, 3. But the reason it's difficult is a lot of the mechanics and memorization as well. It's like it's just very brutal. Like it just kicks your butt, So
yes.
But Comix Zone for me was a very unique experience. It wasn't. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head like that comic. I do remember seeing that Deadpool game, I think, online before. Like I saw clips of it.
Mm-hmm.
And excuse me, folks, I got a little. I saw clips of it, but it wasn't like you jump panel to panel, like I think, but it did have that kind of like Comix Zone. It had like that comedy aspect because in Comix Zone, when you're jumping panel to panel, there's little blurbs that your character will say and the enemies will say, and they're usually like little jokes that he says. It's actually kind of funny if you actually have the ability to read them while you're playing. I had a hard time reading the humor because it was the game was so punishing that I was so focused on not dying. So I kind of had a hard time like enjoying the humor. Sometimes I would see it and I'd be like, oh yeah, cool. But I was just like so focused on not dying that I couldn't enjoy it. Is there like a favorite line that you can remember from this game that you thought was like really funny or
I think because like Q, I also have a hard time like remembering a lot of the lines. But one of the ones that immediately springs to my head is at the end of the first stage, where Sketch Turner suddenly transforms into a superhero and then reverts back, and he's like, "What the fuck was that?" And that's even censored and everything. So I that was one of the things that also stuck out to me in this game is that the characters actually kind of curse. That was odd. I don't remember a lot of Mega Drive games doing that. Not even Mortal Kombat, but that game is mature for other reasons. But I think it feels like a leftover of that '90s edge. This game was released in 1995 when Sega was preparing to do the Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn was already out in Japan by that point, and then they did a surprise launch in North America that screwed everything. But Sega of America was also still insistent on making stuff for the Mega Drive, and Comix Zone was one of those games, even though it was actually in development for a couple years prior to that. It just got delayed multiple times. It's very interesting, especially also because this game contained like an album which contained remixes of songs in a grunge like genre style, and I found that unique. I listened to like one of the songs before recording for this podcast. It's quite an interesting look into the context behind this game, the vibes, the aesthetic. I find that interesting to talk about personally.
Yeah. That's funny that you mentioned music, because that was one thing that a lot of people brought up when I was asking about it on one of the subreddits. It might have been the Sega one. I don't really remember which one it was. But people brought up the music a lot because maybe you already said this, but it came with like when you bought the original game, it came with like a separate album, like a soundtrack, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of interesting because not a lot of games did that. And so you basically got like a 2-in-1 deal. And I listened to the album on YouTube a bit, and it wasn't bad. Like, I mean, it's not like something I probably would like throw in my CD player unless I was like going for nostalgia, like I was like, I just wanted to feel nostalgia. But it wasn't bad. It was kind of interesting, like little grungy, like early grunge, or like not grunge. I want maybe you can call it grunge. I want like, what's that, like skateboarding type of no, that's like ska.
Butt rock?
Yeah,
I call it butt rock?
Maybe butt rock. Yeah. I was like trying to think of the genre, but yeah, it's kind of like, I guess grunge is fine. People can understand that, but but yeah, it was cool. It was a cool little deal that you get when you buy the game. Obviously, I don't have that soundtrack, but that's very it was very neat. Do you have a favorite soundtrack from the game?
From the game itself, I honestly, the first music you hear in the game when you in the first stage, like it's probably the song that is captured in my mind because it just explodes on you, and then it goes a bit calmer, and then it just it's like that sometimes the Mega Drive / Genesis twang is like sounds really good. Unfortunately, the soundtrack, I do feel like it gets a bit homogenous the further you go along because it has a very similar style throughout. But that isn't to discredit what Howard Drawson did for the soundtrack. I think he did a good job, and it fits generally well with the game's aesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice one of the soundtracks seems to play over and over, and I think it's like the bass soundtrack as you're like going through the levels. I can't really remember. It's just like a da-na-na, da-na-na. I don't even remember exactly how it goes, but that's the one that pops in my head immediately, and I just remember hearing that a lot. I know certain levels have different soundtracks, but there's like this one that it just keeps on popping in my head. Yeah, the music was good though. I would say like I enjoyed it, even though you said it like gets repetitive, which I kind of agree, or modular. It's still like enjoyable music. I think it fits the theme really well in this game. I think like it's perfect for what they were going for. Yeah. So let me go into some of our questions here. one of the topic discussions was like, how did Comix Zone push the boundaries of the Genesis hardware? I don't know if it did it. You think it pushed the boundaries in any way? I don't know, like if it did or not.
I'd say so because back then, when it comes to like making games for that hardware, we're making sprites and stuff like that, and then you had the backgrounds, and since we went from 8-bit to 16-bit, backgrounds were now more detailed. There were more colors. Things pop out more. Sonic 2 immediately springs to mind. Just comparing Sonic 1 to Sonic 2, the colors are more vibrant. There's a lot more variety and stuff like that. But then we reach Comix Zone, and not only are the colors also very bright, vibrant, and pop out, but the backgrounds are extremely detailed. And then the animations for the characters, for Sketch and Roadkill and all the enemies, are genuinely pretty smooth for the hardware. And there's a lot of shading involved in the sprites. Like, it's very impressive. And I also like the what was the bad guy's name? I forgot.
I forgot his name, but he's like the dude that's always drawing the enemies. Mortis. Okay.
I looked it up. Mortis. Like when an enemy pops up, you see Mortis's hand like draw on top of it. You see Sketch, and then it becomes color, and that happens a lot when an enemy like is summoned. And I really like that detail. So I feel like the combination of all these details, the shading, the animations, and all of that makes it so that, yes, I'd say that Comix Zone was pushing the Mega Drive to its limits. Is it the best looking game on hardware? Hard to say. I haven't played that many Mega Drive games, but I'd say it is one of the best looking. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like something on the Sega Genesis that was like, that I would consider better than Comix Zone as far as like art style or I don't know. I think this game was one of the ones that definitely, I guess, would have pushed the Sega Genesis to its limits. Sonic did have some like 3D level type of deals going on. Those must have
yes.
Those must have pushed it as well. I just thought about those, like when you go into the extra warp gates or whatever in Sonic, and there's like and your character's like kind of like in a 3D world. That must have pushed it a little bit, I would imagine.
Yes. The ones from Sonic 2, the half pipes and the blue spheres in Sonic 3 Knuckles, a bit, yes. I guess if you were talking about pushing the limits, Virtual Racing, one of the first 3D racing games ever, was ported onto the Mega Drive, and they used a specific chip called the Virtual Processor that was only used in that one game because it cost a whole lot to produce, and the game was sold at a premium for like $100, I think. But yeah, it was genuinely 3D graphics on the Mega Drive, kind of similar to what the Super FX chip did for Star Fox on the Super Nintendo. So I guess you could say that game pushes limits simply because it's a full-on 3D game, not even a pseudo 3D like Sonic. It's full-on 3D for the Mega Drive. But when it comes to, does it look gorgeous like Comix Zone? It has aged.
Yeah, the older 3D games on the like that era was definitely they have aged. That era wasn't ready for 3D. They were just kind of like trying to make it work. You can say that the original Star Fox was good, but I would say that it doesn't look great. I would argue that it probably doesn't look great. But whatever, that's a subjective, I suppose. So
it has charm, I'd say. It has charm.
Yeah, and so one of the interesting aspects of this game is, like, you kind of mentioned it earlier, where you get a little rat called Roadkill, and
yes.
Roadkill is a make or break mechanic of this game, and unfortunately you don't always have him because you have to kind of like find him in the levels sometimes. And he basically, you'll send him out and he'll do things for you, like he'll push down levers, or he'll go find secret items hidden in the wall. He'll help you with certain enemies, and he's a pretty important mechanic. But if you lose him, he can be killed. If you lose him, then you're gonna be like having a hard time in the next panels. Like, did you like this little Roadkill mechanic?
I liked it, but to be honest, I actually did not know you could find secret items. I only knew that you could electrocute enemies, and I used them sometimes for like crowd control when there was a lot of enemies. I'd push him down and see if he could like attack anybody. But sometimes he was a bit too slow on the draw, so whenever I got him, like I would try to keep him. I tried to see if I could use him, but most of the time I ended up not using roadkill. Although I do like the concept of that. I again, I didn't know that he could find secret items. I think I like those more. I like that passive ability that he has. It makes him a lot more useful than I give him credit for. But unfortunately, I ended up not using him a whole lot. So
Yeah,
but I do like the concept.
I can see if you had infinite health, maybe you wouldn't be worried about like sending him out.
Oops.
You know, which no, it's fine, like whatever. But you wouldn't worry about sending him out because like if you don't, you're kind of what I found myself doing was like basically like almost like I don't want to say like I was trying to think of like a funny way to put it, but you're kind of like a schizophrenic or something where you're just sending this rat out constantly to find secret items because you're like, you need help in the game. So you're like, come on, go. Like you're just sending them across the panel. You're like, come on, find an item. Please find an item. Please find an item. You're like,
please find the knife. I need it.
Yeah, I need a knife. I need some help. Like, so you're constantly just like crazy, like a crazy person, just sending out this rat all the time to try to find stuff. I think I like the mechanic, but I think I would have liked it a lot more if roadkill was just a base mechanic that you always had with you instead of something that you could lose. Because if you lose them, I mean, man, it makes some of those panels really hard to do. And but it's just it's kind of an interesting mechanic. And so this is one mechanic I didn't use, and maybe you can explain this to me a little bit more. Like about tearing the pages, using your health to tear the pages. What's that all about?
Oh yes, I'm more experienced this when going through doors, but like I think I remember there were some panels you could like tear. Unfortunately, for some reason, whenever a sketch turner punches a wall that a metal wall or a page, he takes damage from that, and you only have so much health. So, if you want to progress through certain parts of the game, you gotta get hits. And yeah, there are some healing items you can find, but those are rare. So, I personally wouldn't say that's great design. I mean, I had the infinite health cheat, but even then, I still wouldn't find this great design. But that's just. I just don't get it. It's like, unless like sometimes there are alternate ways of going through a door. Like maybe there's a lever nearby, but that's not always the case, and that's unfortunate. You kind of really gotta go into the expectation that okay, I'm gonna lose some health, but let me try and conserve as much health as I can. Or if I have an explosive and I don't feel like I need it for later, let me use it now to blow through this door and get away so I don't get hit, and then so I don't get hit from punching the door or the panel.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that mechanic. So that is another thing that makes this game really hard and makes it like why certain panels turn into puzzles is that there are going to be spots where you have to break certain objects in order to like proceed through the level. Unfortunately for this game, your character loses health every time you hit something to break it. And this is one of those like mechanics in the game that I would say is like the most divisive. I would say it's like people really either like it or don't like it. Some people liked it because they're like, oh yeah, that's like what makes it hard. But other people were like, it's too punishing to just punch like something that you need to punch, and then your character's constantly losing health. I mean, like, how do you feel about it?
I personally am not the biggest fan because the game is already very punishing in other areas, and this is just another. It's pretty much just like rubbing the salt on the wounds. So I personally find it unnecessary, especially in a game that's already this hard.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and I think I mostly agree. I don't really like the fact that I lost health when I broke stuff. I think there's other ways to make games difficult without cheesy, like I feel like that's a cheesy way to kind of make a game difficult, if that makes any sense. Like it's not like, I don't think it's like a clever way to make a game difficult. They did, they do things to make the game like you can get through that. Like they're, if you find the perfect routes and the perfect items, you can kind of get around that, but you're going to be dying a lot figuring that out. So
yes,
it's not, I don't think it's a great mechanic. I kind of agree with you. I also, on a previous note, I did looked up the tearing pages thing, and I guess you can find secret areas and hidden paths and stuff if you tear pages at certain points in the game. However, you lose health doing that. So why would you? You can't
unless it's very beneficial,
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to know something's there. You would have to know, because if you're tearing a page and you're just losing health for no reason, it's not going to be worth it, man. No way. You have to conserve your health. You have to. Otherwise, you're going to die.
Yes. Yeah. I will say, even with the infinite health cheat, I did find that there was like a little bit of a consequence to that. There's this stage later on where you have to jump on lava and get to the other side to pull a lever. With the infinite health cheat, if you jump into the lava, you'll soft lock the game.
Oh no!
So I need to have a knife beforehand to throw it to the other side so I can hit the lever. Then I can make the platform summon so I can jump on it and proceed. Because otherwise, I'd be screwed. God damn it!
I did not know that. Yeah, I remember the lava part. I got past that lava part. I think I got past just. I think that was the last level I beat, was that level, and then I think the fourth level was the one I was on, I want to say, and that was like the one that I kind of stopped at. So I got through the first level, the temple level, and then that third level, which I think that third level had was that the magician boss? It's like a dude who's like has the water, like he's in the sewers or something. Is that the third level?
I don't remember. It has been a little bit since I've played it, but I do know that it's only 3 levels, 2 episodes each. So if you were already on level 3, then maybe you were in the first episode, and then you only had the second episode left where you would fight the final boss. Just a very interesting mechanic, I'd say. But I'll leave that for later.
Okay, yeah, I think the game said I was like 70% done. Like when you get past the whole little section, it said like there's a little bar. And I think it said 70%. So
around 70%. Then it goes to 90. Then the rest is like it just goes from 90 to 100. So yes.
Okay. So do you talking about bosses? Do you have a favorite boss in this game?
I'd say some of them are not super memorable, but the last boss I'd say is probably the most memorable one, simply because you have to defeat him quickly so you can save Alicia from drowning it within the capsule that the mortis put her in. So yeah, and then after you beat him, you have to go like in a hurry to get the lever, which is a bit hard to see, and then pull her down so you can get the good ending. It is possible to get a bad ending if you fail her, as long as you beat the game. But it's sad. I don't get to save the girl. Damn it.
Oh, so she can be killed.
Yes, she can be killed if you take too long.
Oh, no, it's sad. Well, at least there's a punishment. I mean, this game, never mind. This game punishes you all the time. Maybe there should. But
exactly.
Yeah. I only did 2 bosses. I want to say 2 bosses total. There was the magician guy, and then the first boss is like a dragon thing, I want to say. Like some sort of like dragon thing. But
Didn't that boss like send out like little minions or flames for you to dodge?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And the second boss was kind of funny because your character is like, he's like making fun of his fingernails because the guy has like super long fingernails, and he's like, I don't remember what he says to him, but he looks like one of those like ancient Chinese scholars. The boss does like like ancient Chinese sorcerer or something.
Like Fawn from Street Fighter 5.
I think so. Like, let me Fawn Street Fighter 5. I'm gonna look him up real quick. But
FANG.
Oh, okay. FANG. Just want to make sure that's a good. Yeah, kind of like that guy. Kind of like Fong.
Mhm.
He kind of looks like him. He has like these long, but he has these long. Instead of like Fong doesn't have long fingernails, but he has those long fingernails, and he'll send these little magics at you like across the room, and you're kind of making fun of each other. He's like, "Oh, I'll show you my fingernail power" or something. I don't remember what he says, but it's kind of funny interaction. Do you have a favorite level?
It's a bit hard, but I think I say once again the first level, simply because it's the most memorable one in terms of like set pieces, stuff like that. But I also remember the temple level, just because it also looked gorgeous with the blue sky in the background, and you climbing on ropes to get by. I remember that. I remember that it was unique. And that's also another mechanic, climbing on ropes and attacking enemies from there. Takes a while to beat enemies that way. Well, it takes a while to beat enemies in general, so I guess that tracks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if I had I don't know if I have a favorite level. The one I remember the most, though, is also the temple level, just because like you're forced into a scenario where your character has to do basically a gauntlet of enemies inside this like temple panel, basically. So like you have like this big face or whatever that's like, you know, here's a new enemy, and you got to like beat the new guy. So
Mortal Kombat.
yeah, it's very Mortal Kombat-esque. It's cool. It was like a memorable level. And the reason probably why I remember it a lot is because I think that's the level I died on the most. I would get past that temple part with the gauntlet. I would get past the gauntlet, and there's a little bit like left over, and there's a couple clever parts that you have to figure out, and that would kill me. So I would die at the end of that like page all the time, constantly dying at the end of that page. It was. I think I died probably 20 plus times on that temple level. I would say, yeah, it was a lot. And, you know, yeah. And we'll kind of, you know, go over that point real quick. And you've said it earlier, is that when you die in this game, you die. You don't get to. I think it actually gives you one restart. I think it gives you one restart, doesn't it? Like just one, and it will restart you.
I don't remember. No, I don't think so. I remember like I died from a bottomless pit, and it booted me to like Sega, the title screen. So I don't think it gives you a restart.
Yeah, that's funny. No, yeah. For some reason I thought it did, and I thought it was very conditional. Like it's not something you just get. It's like something you have to like earn. And because I thought I remember it's sending me back to the beginning of the level once, and then I died. I was like, oh, cool. Like I get a life, and then I died again, and it was like Sega, like you said, like you get that intro.
Yeah. Maybe it is conditional. I just didn't meet conditions, but it just goes to show how hard this game is. Mortis
will say this, and I remember him saying this. He said, "Oh, the fun's over already. No, let's like go." He says some sort of line that gives you like, and then you know you get the extra life, but you don't. Even if you get one, you don't get two. And when you die, you restart the whole game. You don't get to restart back to the same level. I personally, I don't think that's a good mechanic. That's actually one of my bad points that I wrote down for my review. Is that
yes?
I think it should have started you at the beginning of that level, not at the beginning of the game. I think that's just it's too much because of how punishing the game is. You know.
Yeah.
And I get it's a short game, but sheesh.
I feel like I think it's a thing that happened a lot with older games, and this game is just like the creme de la creme of this, which is video games were really short. They couldn't be very long outside of RPGs. So what they did is just make the game harder, so that they couldn't beat it people couldn't beat it in one sitting, and they would continue to rent the game, because that was a thing a lot in North American video game culture, is renting a game instead of fully buying them. And then, by making this game hard, we make it so that people can rent it a bunch of times. Haha, and we get all the money. Not too dissimilar to arcade games, although I am a fan of some arcade games. But I guess this is the arcade philosophy pushed to its absolute limits. Kind of similar to Echo the Dolphin, although that's more of an adventure game than a full-on action game like this. But you get the point.
Yeah, I don't think it's a clever way to do replayability. I also think you're right. So it was probably about money a little bit, where they wanted people to do rentals over and over. I also think, out of curiosity, I wonder if like video game companies got royalties based on how much their game got rented. I don't know how that worked back then.
Me neither. I'm a stinky European, and I didn't grow up during the 80s and 90s, so I don't know how things were back then. Even in my country, I mean, the currency was different back then. So I don't know. I only know the North American perspective because that's the perspective that's been shoved down my throat. I mean, been distributed to me many times over the years.
Yeah. There's always North American news, I feel like, everywhere. So yeah, it's just, so I wonder if they got royalties from that. Also, I know this was a bad habit a lot of video game companies had back then, that if they had a short game, they came up with ways for replayability, and sometimes those ways were clever and other times they were annoying. And I think Comix Zone unfortunately kind of leans towards that more annoying side of replayability. It's like, yeah, let's just make it really, really, really punishing and hard. You have to restart the entire game. And then our 30-minute to 1 hour game is now like a 10-hour game. It's like, I don't think that's a good way to do it, but
yes,
I think replayability. Go ahead.
As one of my favorite YouTubers once said, you should worry about your game just being fun to play and don't artificially do it, so that if your game is really fun to play, then people will want to replay it because, oh my god, this was so fun. I want to replay and see if I can find something, or I like alternate paths or different ways to play the game, or do what Castlevania Round of Blood did and offer alternate stages that you can get by meeting certain conditions in stages. And I think that's really cool. While with Comix Zone, I guess they like looking at the level design. A lot of the level design is very basic. It's a beat 'em up at the end of the day, and beat 'em ups don't tend to get very dynamic level design. This one is a bit more dynamic than something like Streets of Rage, for example, or Final Fight. But because of how long it took for them to make the game as gorgeous as it is, it probably cut down on the development of the actual game itself, or even space, or they couldn't use the extra storage, the extra space of the cartridge to make more dynamic levels. So how do we make it last longer? Make it more difficult, like you said.
Yeah. And so just not my favorite way. I think I like New Game Plus. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like hard games. I just don't like the way this game did it. I don't like the whole restarting the whole entire game. Now, if you make a hard game and and I die on a boss and I get to restart at that boss, like I don't mind replaying that boss over and over and over until I beat it. I just don't want to do a bunch of like stuff I've already done that I know how to do just because it artificially inflates the time of the game. So that's just kind of.
I think a lot of modern hard games are good at that. Like I haven't played Dark Souls, but I've played Metroid Dread, and I love how that game, unlike any other previous Metroid game, actually has checkpoints. And if you die in the boss, you restart right before it instead of restart at the latest save point. Now, some Metroid games beforehand had like a save point close by the boss, but not all of them did. So I'm glad that Metroid Dread made that change. I really appreciate that.
Now, to be fair, if you play this game on emulation, you're not going to have that issue if you use save states. You're like, okay, I get past a certain panel or get past a certain part. Then it's like not. It's not a big deal. You just save the game at that state and then you just continue and you kind of play the game how it was meant. It should have been played. I also heard there was a mod that starts you at the beginning of the level, and that's good. So I used emulation, and what I would do is I would save the state at the beginning of the level and just replay that level over and over. And I thought that was the fairest way for me to play the game. I didn't like save after every panel. I could have, and I thought about it because I really wanted to beat the game. I was like, maybe I should just save after every panel that I do well in. But I decided to be.
I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah, exactly. But I decided to be more. I didn't want to like, cheat the system too much because I know like a lot of people would be like, oh, you didn't really. So I just did the whole, start at the beginning of the level. I heard there was a mod that actually fixes that. There's like a mod you can download, and that's what it does. And so this is a common.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, this is a common theme. It's not just me and you that felt that way. There's a lot of people who are like, you don't need to, you shouldn't restart the whole game, you know? There's probably some hardcore heads that are going to say otherwise, but you know what? You go be hardcore. Let us take the easy route, okay? You know, give us a bone.
Yes.
We just want a couple of bones, all right, guys? So.
Yeah, don't be like Mike Matei.
Yeah, who's that?
He's a friend of James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd. Yeah, I remember him a while back said that he was very critical of people using save states and rewind and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, no, please.
Yeah. Who cares about Mike Matei? You know what? Forget you, Mike Matei. Actually, I don't know the guy. Maybe he's nice, but you know, I don't like your opinion.
Yeah, it's just that opinion. I won't speak much else about the game because I don't know him that well.
Yeah. I'm just messing around. So yeah, you know, you mentioned using the infinite health cheat. Was there any other like interesting cheat codes to this game that made it like kind of fun?
I remember there were other cheat codes that you could use because the thing is that this cheat codes, you know, a lot of people would think, oh, he probably used Game Genie stuff like that. No. The game itself has cheat codes for you to use. You just go to sound test that the game has, and then you select, and then you follow the codes, and then there you go. You have the cheats. I remember there was another cheat that Comix Zone had, but I don't remember. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yes, there was level skip. You could. There was also super player. I don't know what super player does, but there was a stage select code, and there was also the infinite health that I also did. So yeah, there are ways to spice up your adventure if you want to be a god, or if you just want to replay a particular stage. I like when games do that. I think also the original Sonic game also had a level select code that was actually pretty easy to do. But I always appreciate these kind of like small little cheats, like F-Zero GX, where the cheat unlocks everything. Perfect for multiplayer parties. No?
Yeah, I was actually reading because we were talking about the cheat codes. I was reading there's a debug mode. Have you heard of this?
For Comix Zone, I didn't know. I knew for Sonic, but I didn't know for Comix Zone. And if that's the case, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so apparently there's a cheat code that, you know, on the title screen, if you do a couple combination of buttons, then you will activate debug mode. And apparently there's a level editor and any enemy item spawning, level select, flag editing, memory editing. So that's super cool that they have a cheat like that. That's kind of cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it reminds me of Sonic. It also, you could like spawn in enemies and the gold and stuff like that. Wow. Took a page out of Sonic. I mean, makes sense because this game was developed by Sega Technical Institute and they made Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 Knuckles.
Yeah. Okay. So then you're going to get a lot of the same stuff. That's pretty cool. Pretty freaking cool. I think it's cheats like that are great. I actually thought, you know, maybe people didn't, you know, might disagree with me, but I thought Game Shark and Game Genies were actually really cool. I thought those were like super cool ways to enjoy a game. You know, I'm not even talking about beating the game, just to like manipulate it and like see what you can do with the game. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, just screwing around. I unfortunately never got like those things. But I remember during my emulation phase, like way back then, I remember like I enjoyed doing moon jumps in like Banjo-Kazooie and see how far I could get. I wonder what the top of Spiral Mountain looks like. Oh, I see a white void. I wonder what's over there. Oh, I died. Oops.
That's funny. You know, yeah, I'm not. I just remember using the Game Shark. So in Pokemon, I was actually going to mention another game. I'm not going to. It's a meme now that I mention Final Fantasy every episode. I'm not going to do it.
Keep the tradition.
I mention it. I'm not going to talk about it. But we'll talk about Pokemon. So there's a Game Shark code where you can get Mew in Pokemon Red and Blue, and I thought that's a super cool little hack because you can't get Mew in the game, and the people would always trick you. So like this is kind of an off.
But Mew was under the truck. Didn't you know?
Yeah, they'd always tell you that he's under the truck, like next to the SS Anne or whatever that boat was, and you're like walking up and down, and you're looking for Togepi, and you're looking. Oh man, I just remember doing that, and I'm like, I can't find it. So people would, I don't know who start these rumors, but yeah, but the Game Shark, you could get Mew. Mew was in the game, coded into the game. You just couldn't get him in normal means. So very interesting. Yeah, we'll jump back to Comix Zone, but I think Game Genies and Game Sharks are great ways to re-enjoy a game in different ways. So let's go into the review portion a little bit more of the game. So we're going to go over the good, the bad, and the mixed feelings that I had playing the game. It was my first time playing the game. I didn't play it as a child, so I don't have any nostalgia for the game. This is kind of a 2025 review of Comix Zone. So one thing that I would say, and we kind of, talked about, was the art. And I think the art style is a good point of the game. I think what they were shooting for was really, really cool, really unique, really interesting. I think it's like this comic book sprite aesthetic, and it hasn't been done a lot. It's pretty unique in its aesthetic. And how do you feel the same way? Or
I feel the same way. I do also feel like well, before I go into this point, I really do like the art style. I think that's one of the best aspects of the game. I am saddened that people haven't really replicated that, but I also feel like like this art style got a sort of spiritual successor a few years later, and that's cell shading. Of course, not exactly comic book-esque, but cell shading could be considered a way to bring cartoons to life, and also a mod made by Maximilian Dude and his team for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, called Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond, has a sort of comic book-esque art style inspired by the works of Jack Kirby. And I think it was Jack Kirby. So I think that's probably the closest we got to emulating that kind of style, even if it doesn't replicate all of the things regarding comic book, like the speech bubbles and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think that's it. I never thought about cell shading that way, but I have thought about cell shading as a cartoon graphics, but I never thought about it being related to comic books. Now that you mentioned it, yeah, I think cell shading does kind of not reimagine, but it kind of it lets comic book aesthetic live through its cell shading in a way. Because if you imagine a cell shaded game and you simply put like a comic book panel theme to it, like it would work.
Mm-hmm.
It would totally work. So
yeah,
that's interesting that you mentioned that. So I think the art style was great. I think that's one of the best points of this game. I think thematically and aesthetically, I think it probably is the best point of this game. I would say that is like the greatest thing about this game, in my opinion. Now, and also on a related note, that each panel was really unique. It had unique art. Each panel was like a unique art style, not art style, a unique there was like new things, environments, yeah. And each panel was different, and you weren't playing the same thing over and over and over. You were like doing different stuff in each panel. Even though you died and you had to replay that panel over and over, but it wasn't like you jumped from one panel to another and you're like, I've just got to do the same thing again. Like each one was pretty unique. So I think that was like a really good point of the game. I thought this game, I think its creativity is just really good. Overall, I think the overall creativity was a really good, especially for its time. This is one of the first examples of this.
And variety.
Yeah. One of the bad points was that difficulty that we were talking about, and yes. Not so much difficult as in Dark Souls difficult. It's difficult as in like if it's a new panel, you're not going to know how to beat it. You're gonna die. You're gonna lose health. Like no matter what, unless you are a super genius that just happens to, I don't know, just have knowledge or something. Like 99% of people.
You read a magazine.
Yeah, you looked up a guide. Then maybe you might know, but you're not going to just know the first time around, and you're going to die, and you're going to lose health, and you're going to die, you're going to lose. I don't like that kind of difficulty. I like the difficulty that is more like you can. I mean, I wouldn't mind it if you had the save state stuff, but I like difficulty that's more difficult. Not just, I don't know how to explain it, but I don't like difficulty that you have to have previous knowledge Nah,
Trial
that's
and
a lot.
error.
Yeah.
You don't like artificial difficulty curves.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of retracing my words because I'm kind of disagreeing with myself a little bit here. I'm saying some stuff I'm not 100% sure if I'm actually agreeing with. But I don't like the way that, it's mostly the save states, I think. I think that's just like, just give me some save states and I would have been fine with it. So, difficulty's fine. Just you need to do it right. I don't like the artificial, and we've kind of nailed this hammer in, the artificial replayability.
Don't be as punishing.
Yeah. So a New Game Plus would have been fine. Even that would, if you want to replayability that way or something. But and you only get one life per level. You should have maybe even if you wanted to make it hard. Still, you could give somebody like a stock of 10, and this game still would have been hard.
Mm-hmm.
So
because there's so many enemies coming at you.
Yeah, if I had a stock of 10, I still wouldn't have beat it. I still wouldn't have beat it in a week. I wouldn't have. So, let's go and we'll go back to one of my good points was that music that we talked about earlier. I think the music is fun. I think it fits great with the game. I think it's not like, it's not like, what do you call it? Like not cutting edge. Like it's not like a great masterpiece of music. I'm not going to say it's a masterpiece, but it's good.
It's fun.
It's fun. It's good. It works. It's like
it rocks.
It rocks. You're having fun. You're enjoying the beats when you're playing this game. So, do you feel like that, or do you feel like this music's more masterpiecey, or do you feel like it's just?
I think it's just a fun soundtrack. Again, like I said, it gets a little bit of homogeneous because a lot of the songs start sounding the same after a bit. But I do like the overall style they went with, and it's probably one of the games on the Mega Drive where I'd say that it uses the twang the best. It just generally sounds good. It makes you bop your head sometimes. It makes you like, ooh. It gives you some like mystique at some points. It's generally a good soundtrack, even if it does lead into the rockin'. Let's go. This is an adventure. Let's kick some ass. Yeah. I would say I think I agree with you. And so, you mentioned something, earlier, and I know this is off note, but it kind of reminded me. People call this game a beat 'em up. I don't. To me, it doesn't feel like a beat 'em up. It feels like a fighting game. You kind of feel like what I'm saying. Like you kind of like use the like you don't really have combos technically, but you like the way the characters block, like the and usually you're fighting like one character at a time because you only get one in front of you. Like in like traditional beat 'em ups, like Final Fight, like you kind of have like not a 3D. I wouldn't say like a 3D plane, but it's like it's kind of like you have a Y and an X axis. Well, I guess this game has a Y and an X axis too, but there's no Z axis. But basically, it's like you're only fighting one enemy at a time because it's like a side scroller, and so like it kind of feels like when you're fighting enemies, it kind of feels like a fighting game sometimes, where like you have to like punch low, punch high, punch low, punch whatever. Yeah.
And I guess beat 'em ups have that too, but I don't know why it reminded me of a fighting game. I guess it's because it doesn't have that traditional like final fight where you're like going up and down the map to me.
Yeah. But I think I know what you're saying, but beat 'em ups and fighting games have had some like common things over the years. So even though this beat 'em up doesn't feel like the same like a Streets of Rage or Final Fight where you go up and down, you move on the Z axis, I'd still say it's a beat 'em up because it emphasizes being the ever living hell out of enemies, and sometimes you do encounter multiple enemies. Like for example, when you're on a rope, there's maybe an enemy to the right and then an enemy to the left. There's some enemy like some those insect enemies like flying over you, and you gotta kick them out. That's why I'd call this game a beat 'em up, because it emphasizes the beat 'em up, the being the ever living shit out of it. And I won't call it a fighting game because it's single player. Most fighting games have multiplayer modes, and also emphasize, if it's traditional fighter, they emphasize like command inputs and stuff like that. At least on modern 2D fighting games. While if it was another fighting game subgenre like a platform fighter, well, that also it does involve platforming, but also it's more like Smash Brothers. That's basically what I'm getting at.
Okay, yeah, and a lot of people don't call Smash Brothers a fighting game, which is funny.
I do. It's just a platform fighter. It's a subgenre. That's it.
Yeah, I've heard people call it a party game or something like that. I can't remember. But to me, it's a fight.
Party.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a platform fighter that it's a fighting game that mixes in platforming elements. So it's a platform fighter, but it also has some party elements with the items and stuff like that. So, yeah. I mean, some people could also call it a competitive action game. I think Sakurai himself, the director, has said that. So I'm like, call it whatever you want. If you want to call it a shooter, then fine by me. You're just wrong.
Yeah, I don't know why people are so interested in calling it something other than a fighting game. I mean, it's a fight. You're fighting. You're fighting each other.
I think it's because some people have low security, have like a big insecurity. Because like, no, my fighting game is a true fighting game. Yours doesn't even have health bars or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. No. Yeah. To me, it is. I'll probably die on that hill, and somebody will. People get mad at me. Whatever. So another mechanic we mentioned was the breaking things to hurt yourself. I don't like that. I think you shouldn't hurt yourself when you break things. I think you could just make the levels a little bit more, like the panels a little bit more in a different way that it's still difficult, but you're not hurting yourself to break stuff. Why? Like, who wants to hurt themselves when it's like something you have to break, and they're like, we want you to figure out the most optimal way to break this thing in order for you to not lose health. And that was the whole idea. They want you to solve the puzzle, but in order to solve it, you have to restart the whole game, over and over and over. So
might as well at that point, it's just like, just don't get hit. Just let me not get hit from breaking doors. That's all.
Yeah.
Simple fix.
It's just a simple, I don't know. It's just, I would have done it in a different way probably if it was me. I don't, but these old games, it's not like Comix Zone is unique in the aspect that it has annoying mechanics that are just super difficult. There are older games that are like that, like the Lion King game, is super punishing. Aladdin was pretty difficult. So it's not like this is unique to comic. It's not just this team that had this issue. So I get it. It's a kind of a thing of the era, in a way. So I'm not gonna harp on it too much in that aspect. But sheesh, guys. And another a good point that I had was the humor, which I really enjoyed. I thought the humor was I like Deadpool. It's kind of like Deadpool, but not as raunchy. It's not like Deadpool talks a lot of does a lot of sexual innuendos and stuff.
Yes.
This one's a lot less so. It's a little bit more clean, I would say. It's less potty humor. It's fun. It's funny. They try to be funny. They try to be self-aware. I think it's good in that aspect. The only bad part that I would say about it is that I didn't really get a lot of time to read the text, as I said earlier, because I was so focused on not dying. So I didn't get to enjoy the humor that much, Once in a while, I would see a quip pop up and I'd be like, oh, that's funny. But a lot of the time I was just focused on not dying.
Yeah. It's good humor. It's just that, unfortunately, it's hard to pay attention. I mean, sometimes when I'm not being swarmed by enemies. So unfortunately, I'm not even sure if you can pause the game to read what they're saying. So it's unfortunate. If the game was less punishing, maybe the humor would have shined more.
I had myself muted. I'm going to re-say that last thing. Yeah, so I agree with you. If the game was less punishing, then you would be able to enjoy those humorous aspects more. So now the last bad point that I had was that if you miss an item, the game is not only much more difficult, but at times it's impossible. It feels impossible. So if you don't find a secret item sometimes, you're not, or a certain grenade or a certain thing or roadkill, then you're not going to be able to complete the next panels. Not really, unless you happen to just really cheese the game. For example, yes. I'll give you an example. So there's a point on the second level, after you beat the temple, there's a guy on a ledge, and the game will. I guess the item, to be fair to this panel, the item is in that panel, but it's not always for every panel. For this panel, if you don't have a grenade to get this guy off the ledge, or if you misuse the grenade and you miss, you're not going to get him off the ledge, and he's just going to say burn. Do you know those guys that they just say burn?
Yeah, burn. Yeah.
And you're just going to get kicked off the ledge, and you're not going to be able to proceed because he's ledge blocking you. There's also another one that I just thought of where if you don't find the grenade in a previous panel, there's a bunch of stone blocks in the next panel that you have to break. And if you don't break them with a grenade, you lose 90% of your health. So if you miss items in this game, it makes the game too difficult. I don't like that the panels rely on previous panels in order for you to do well in that panel. Now, if that panel had its own unique mechanics, which it usually does, and you could always accomplish the goal that you want within that panel by exploring that specific panel, then I would have been fine with it. But I don't like it relying on previous panels for you to do well. I think that's just too punishing, and it's just not it's not fun for me. What do you think?
Especially because you can't go back, and that becomes a bit of a souring point. Again, I'll mention that soft locking. If you jump in the lava with the infinite health cheat and you need the knife to be able to progress, I had to pretty much rewind my game just so I could get a knife and to make sure I could get a knife, because if I didn't have the knife, I would have been screwed. So
yeah,
I'm not gonna punish the developers too much for not thinking about that with a cheat code, but I am gonna punish the developers for pretty much you have to get hit by the lava in order to proceed. I don't like that, especially if you had a low health, you're pretty much doomed. So that's just bad game design.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. You have to jump into the lava to jump to the other side. That's the way it works. So I remember that. It's like they expect you to have a certain amount of health in order to proceed. Maybe there's a way to avoid losing health jumping into the lava, but I mostly lost health every time. So.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had a mixed one here. It says, but we already brought up that point, so we won't even go over that. That was the whole humor, but the game is too fast for you to appreciate it. So, yeah, the game is pretty short. So there's not a lot to say about it unless you're going into the development of the game and what the developers were thinking and all that stuff. And I don't have a lot of that developer trivia or anything on here. I usually don't in these episodes. These episodes are more about our personal experiences with the game. Yes. I do on my Patreon. I only have one episode up so far for the retro deep dives, but I do have a planned deep dives for certain games where we go deep into development, deep into lore, deep into this, and it's more of a 3 hour long podcast episodes versus to 4 hours versus this 1 to 2 hour retro review of the game. So
I do know a little bit of the development of this game. So
I mean, if you want to say some of it, you can. I mean, we're only an hour in, so if you have something you'd like to yeah.
So as I was researching for this game, Sega Technical Institute, which was funded by Mark Cerny, yes, the same guy who made the PS4 and the PS5, that was a team that was made to, so that Sega could have a bigger foothold in the North American market, and they were recruiting a lot of talent. This guy, I think his name is pronounced Peter Moriak. Moriak? It's Moraweic. Moriak. He came in. He was recruited he came in 1992, and I think he was responsible for coding the special stages in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But he also had an idea that he wanted to do, and that was a comic book game because he was inspired by his colleagues, enjoying comic books, and he was also inspired by Haha's Take On Me video, and he began this concept called Joe Pencil trapped in a Comix Zone. And after some retooling and approval from Sega of America's boss, they transformed it a little bit. Took a while for it to come out. Joe Pencil became sketch turner, and his design became less nerd looking and more badass comic book artist. And then Comix Zone will be released in 1995.
Oh, that's
to
interesting.
Low sales because it came late.
Yeah, Sketch Turner does look like he looks like he was. That's funny that you said that because it looks like he was a nerd that worked out or something. That's kind of what he looks like.
Yes.
He looks
Originally,
like
he was way skinnier.
he's like a nerd that kind of like got buff and like could fight basically. So kind of funny that you mentioned that. So that's interesting. That's cool. A lot of cool little development things right there. So let's go into kind of I suppose the final reviews of the game. So, I don't know how many levels there are. I don't know how many bosses there are. I think there's only like 5 levels total, I want to say.
Technically 6 because it's like 3 worlds, 2 episodes each.
Okay. 3 worlds, 2 episodes each. Okay. 6 is pretty low number. Let's rate it we'll just do that out of 10. I think that's just sometimes I like to have like a unique rating system, but I can't think of anything that's like too unique, but also is like greater than 6. So out of 10, before we do that, is there any final thoughts that you would like to say about Comix Zone?
I think Comix Zone is a pretty neat game. Bit too challenging for its own good. But once again, the visibility cheat code allows me to have more fun with the game and appreciate what the developers are going for. And overall, it's a game that I like to pop in every once in a while. And my recent playthrough was like the 3rd time I played the game. And just kick back and just enjoy. Am I making the game a bit too easy? Yeah. But am I having fun? Hell yeah. So I would like if this game got a sequel. Or it's getting a movie adaptation that's eventually coming out.
Really?
So let's see how that. Yes, by a company called Press Start. They announced it back in 2022, but we haven't really heard many updates since. So who knows? These movies take time. So yeah.
That's so interesting because this was the first time when Ben Dragoon, thank you, by the way, Ben Dragoon, for submitting it to the retro roster. If anybody ever wants to submit a game to the show, just a quick plug. We have a retro roster. You can join the Discord or the Patreon at patreon.com/retro-reloaded. And we have a retro roster where people submit games. And the person who submitted this game for me to play was Ben Dragoon. So thank you. And basically where I was going with that was, where was I going with that?
Final thoughts, you couldn't. Yeah. Final thoughts, you couldn't come up with a unique rating system. So yeah.
And then you said the movie. Yeah, okay. And then the reason I mentioned that is because this was the first time that I heard about Comix Zone was through that retro roster submission, and that's why I brought the whole thing. And so I had never heard about it, and then one of my frequent guests and supporters, Wabiert, actually knew when I did the riddle for the game the other week. He knew exactly what the game was when I did the riddle. And I was like, what, you know this game? He's like, yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't I? I'm like, wait, does everybody know this game? And I just don't. So apparently this game is more popular than I thought. I just didn't know much about it. So
mostly by Sega enthusiasts, yes.
Okay, maybe just like within certain circles. But yeah, it was that's kind of cool that they're coming out with a movie. They could be really interesting if they do it well, depending on how they do it.
Yes. So if it's on the same line of quality as Sonic movies, then yeah, I'm all in for it.
Yeah, the Sonic movies aren't bad, huh? I feel like they're pretty good. They're just kind of meant for children more, but I think they're still good.
I think they get better with each movie. I mean, I'm a Sonic fan, so I enjoyed them, but like Sonic 3 was really, I'd say, okay, this isn't really just for children anymore. This is actually trying to hit a somewhat older audience as well. Not super old, but like it has a very interesting plot. And for fans like me, I'm gonna like, holy shit, they adapted this pretty well. This is cool, and I recommend everybody check the movies out.
I haven't seen number 3, so I'll give you that.
Go watch it.
Yeah, if it that was my only gripe about the first 2 was that it was just they were kind of kid oriented, but they were good. I still enjoyed them. Like I had a good time watching. Mm-hmm. They just felt a little, childish.
Let me give you like a sort of perspective. Using Rotten Tomato scores. So the first Sonic movie got like a 63%. The second one got like a 69%. Sonic movie 3 was an 85%.
Interesting.
And it was briefly considered the highest rated video game adaptation on Rotten Tomatoes. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that makes me want to watch it more. So my final thoughts about Comix Zone. Comix Zone, I think, is a unique game. Like I said before, I mean, it's got a great art style. I think what they went for, like the whole panel design and the humor and the aesthetic, I think they kind of achieved that mostly for the most part. I think where the game really falls apart is the difficulty in the artificial difficulty by resetting the game over and over and over, just increasing the time. I think that's really where it falls apart. I think that's where it suffers the most. I think the enemies are unique. I think the levels are unique. I think that it's fun to play. I would say the combat gets a little old, and the game is actually more like the beat 'em up part is cool and everything, but the actual fun part is like figuring out each panel. That was the fun part for me, figuring out the puzzles. I thought that was like the best part of the game. Do I, it's kind of interesting that I say that because, the combat is a big part of the game, but I think even more important than the combat in this game is actually just knowing how to do the panels. And I think that's why I say that. I like puzzles. I do like puzzles. I just don't like them when they make you restart the game.
Yes.
I can restart the puzzle, just don't make me restart the game. So, where would a modern audience appreciate this challenge and style of game? I'm going to say most people wouldn't. I'm going to say most people, if they never played Comix Zone and you give them a controller and you're like, hey, play this game, especially on original hardware, they're not gonna, and they're like, dude, this game is like just too hard. I don't want to play it. Like I've had to do this first level over like 10 times. So if I'm talking about original hardware, man, I think I'm thinking the rating's pretty low. If I'm talking about original hardware, if I'm talking about original hardware, I'm giving it, and this is one of the first games that I've actually rated on the lower side, which kind of makes me sad, but I give it like a 4 out of 10 probably. I think what keeps it not from going lower is the aesthetic, the panel, the music, the uniqueness of the game. I think that's really where its strengths are. Now, if you're talking about emulation or maybe even with cheats, like you kind of how you played the game, I might give it like a good 6 out of 10. I think it's a solid game. Like, if you're doing the emulation, you're doing save states, or you're doing the cheat codes, I think a good 6 out of 10. I think it's like solid. It's fun to play. I love the aesthetic of the game. But original hardware, like, unfortunately, it's just too much for most people. So and for me, like, I like hard games, but I don't want to play the same stuff over and over. So I'm curious. I should have asked you what's your rating. I usually do ask my guests first, but what's your rating out of 10?
Well, I normally don't do ratings, but ever since I did reviews on my backlog page, I normally give ratings, and because I give it like a 3.5 out of 5, that would be the equivalent of a 7 out of 10. And of course, I did use that cheat code, so my perspective is a little bit skewed, but I just really enjoy how creative the game is and how aesthetically pleasing and great musically it is. That I'm like, I think this is not so much a hidden gem. If it wasn't for the difficulty, if it wasn't for the difficulty, I would say it would be a hidden gem. But I would say that it's a pretty solid game on the Mega Drive. Too bad about the difficulty, and I would say that unfortunately, I'd say that the only way you can really appreciate this game is if you play it on emulation or use that cheat code, like I said. But there is fun to be had here, and I think it's a good time with those conditions. And I would love for it to have a sequel or just expand the universe more, because I think there's a lot you can do with this idea.
Okay. Yeah. So 7 out of 10 is not bad. Now, out of curiosity, if they took away your cheat code, what would you have rated the game? Like, would it have been the same?
No, it wouldn't be the same. It would probably be lower. I can't give it like a 4. I'd probably give it a 5, like middle of the road too hard for its own good, but the aesthetics and the presentation do help it score a little bit higher. But it's just too hard, and I would not recommend it unless you really want to get your dick kicked in.
Unless you're like a masochist or whatever they call them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, this is what I'll say, because I always, the show's called Retro Reloaded, so most episodes I like to, clarify, should people reload the game? And I'm going to say conditionally, like you said, conditionally, people should reload the game under the pretenses that you either are emulating it with save states or you're using cheat codes. Otherwise, I'm going to say, no, don't reload it. This is the first game that I've ever had to say that. Like, don't reload the game if you don't have those. Unless you're a masochist and you're like somebody who just loves challenges and you love shoving your face into a wall over and over and over. Cool, go for it. Like, do it. And it's not like Elden Ring where you get like to save outside of the boss realm. It's different in that regard. You restart the whole game. So. Yeah, this is such a weird episode for me because I've never had a game where I was just like, man, like unless you play. I have had games I give higher ratings because, for example, on my Legend of Dragoon episode, I gave it a 7 out of 10 with the port that somebody made. On that port, there's a lot of fixes for the original game, and I gave it like a 7 out of 10, but I gave the original game like a 5 out of 10.
Oh,
so. Comix Zone kind of suffers the same thing where it's like if you don't have these certain fixes, then it's just not worth it in my opinion. But I love the art, and it sucks because the game is so unique. The game is so like incredibly unique and artistic. Like I think it's super cool. Thematically the game is really cool. It really is.
Yes.
It is such a unique, and I think it's going to be a great movie if they can do it right. I think it's going to be an awesome movie. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I don't really have anything else to say about it. As people know, I think I mentioned it in a previous episode. Maybe I didn't, but the next week's game. Give me 1 second. I want to have a riddle for it before. I think I already announced it. But maybe just
riddles.
Yeah, I like to do riddles for these just because it makes it like more fun.
Intermission. No, put the Monty Python intermission.
Monty Python? Yeah, until they
just a Monty Python intermission. Put it here.
Until they give me, what do you call it? Copyright strike.
Nah, I mean I put it in my videos. I didn't get a copyright strike.
Oh, okay, they're cool. So. They're cool like that. Okay, so the riddle is, and I think. Yeah. I've already said this game, but just in case. So, 4 heroes fight, yet death they can't flee, in the lands of stone, swamp, sky, and sea. Collect the shards, unlock the gate, face the demon, seal your fate. Arcade born and full of might, can you name this game of fight? And I'm curious if you know it. The audience might know it. It's been talked about in the Discord, so that's why I was wondering if you knew it already.
Well, I didn't really see the Discord much, but can I give out a guess?
A hint? Or no, yeah, I guess.
No, can I guess it? Okay.
Yeah.
The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords?
No, that's a good guess though. Like the 4 heroes fight thing? Yeah, that's a good guess.
Yeah. And they also seal a demon. I played that one. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially with friends. But, or one of my friends just not want to be a team player, just throw me off the ledge for like the 69th time. It's like, okay, buddy.
Thanks, man. Yeah. No, so this game's for the PS2, or actually, not just the PS2. It's also on the GameCube, and I believe they have a Xbox version as well. So this game was actually on all, but I want to say it originally they had a arcade version of it before they released it on the systems. The consoles.
Okay.
And so
no Dreamcast, right?
It might be actually on the Dreamcast too.
Was it on Dreamcast?
I think
so. Can I give another guess?
Yeah, you go ahead. We'll give you one more.
Phantasy Star Online?
No, not Phantasy Star Online. It's going to actually be Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Do you know this game?
Never heard of it actually.
Oh, dude. Oh man. So actually, I'm glad that you mention that because we are going to, so for Gauntlet Dark Legacy, for everybody that's listening, if you want to play this game multiplayer, us in the Discord are trying to set it up to where we play multiplayer together over the next week. And so because this game is meant to be played multiplayer, so it's going to be super fun. If you're somebody who's listening, you're like, I love Gauntlet Dark Legacy and I want to play multiplayer with people, come to the Discord. You can find the Discord at patreon.com/retroreloaded. There's a link for the Discord there. Come to the Discord. It's going to be super fun. It's going to be a great time. I want to give Rino Dino, sorry for butchering your name,
That's fine.
Yeah, an opportunity to plug you had like a backlog or a website that you wanted to plug.
Yeah, I also have my YouTube channel, which is at Rino Dino 64. I'm a pretty small channel, but I do commentaries, and sometimes I also do the occasional European Portuguese stuff because I like voice acting and stuff like that. Recently, I concluded my Sonic Heroes commentary alongside a friend of mine, so check that out. And you can listen to those like a podcast, like this video, for example. But if you also want to watch the gameplay, then feel free to. Outside of that, I have a backlog page by Rino Dino. I'm not sure if Lance will put the link in the description if he can. But I do plenty of reviews. I've also reviewed this game, Comix Zone in particular. And I hope you enjoy reading my reviews.
Yeah, and I'm definitely putting one of your links down. I always try to do that for guests. And just to clarify for his name, Rino Dino, it's not RH, it's RINO DINO. There's no H in there. Yes. So Rino Dino. So yeah, I'm gonna go subscribe to your YouTube channel and stuff if I haven't already. I'm not sure if I have. And thanks for coming on to the show, man. I really appreciate you. This was a good time. It was really fun. And if you ever want to come back onto the show, thank you. And if you ever want to come back onto the show and like talk about a game, let me know. Yeah.
If you play, like, I mean, I enjoy a lot of games. But if you ever play Burning Rangers, I'm on it.
Burning Rangers?
Yes, for the Sega Saturn.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. I haven't played it yet, and it hasn't been submitted yet. But I'll try to keep you updated on that. I usually like to post in the Discord. I get at everyone for guests usually. So yeah, we'll keep a lookout. But yeah, thank you again, man. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for inviting me for this.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that's game over for this episode of Retro Reloaded. Thanks for joining me on this retro adventure. If you loved today's trip down memory lane, then consider helping me keep the nostalgia alive by supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/retro reloaded. You'll get early episodes, bonus content, and a chance to pick the next game that we reload. Feel free to let me know your thoughts about the podcast, and until next time, keep those controllers charged.